In and out of the White House, George H.W. Bush was a pro-life supporter. Joining me now, Chuck Donovan, president of the Charlotte Lozier Institute, served for a brief time in the George H.W. Bush administration as director of presidential correspondent. Welcome to our broadcast.
Great to be on the program.
We've heard a lot about how thoughtful George H.W. Bush is, how important faith is to him. How did that aid him in receiving and communicating the pro-life message?
Well, early in his career as a private citizen and a campaigner for the White House in 1980, he had indicated a pro-choice stance. But during the 1980 campaign, when approached by President Reagan as to whether he would join him as vice president, they talked about the life issue and whether President Reagan's position would prevail. With George H.W. Bush being a man of honor, he went and studied the issue and became increasingly pro-life, and I think had a very consistent pro-life vice presidency and presidency.
You say it was really this relationship that cemented the GOP as pro-life.
Well, no question about that. You know, it was viewed at the time that President Reagan was a member of the reform conservative wing of the party. There was an establishment wing represented by Gerald Ford and Nelson Rockefeller. Bush would have been classified in that group, but when the two of them came together, basically left no room in the party for any position but the embrace of the sanctity of all human life.
He walked the walk, he talked the talk for the rest of his life. I want to read this letter from March of 1989, where he declined to meet with Planned Parenthood representatives. Yes. He wrote, "I do not favor advocating abortion in any way, shape, or form." And he references friends who encouraged him to have the meeting, writing, "They all remain close friends, though we do differ on the abortion question." This seems to speak to his ability to stand his ground without being venomous.
He did that, and I think you saw all the respect at his funeral service today, from across the spectrum. He was resolute on life. He vetoed 10 bills out of Congress, including a massive funding bill, because it weakened pro-life protections. But he did it in such a way that he kept his support from, I think, across the political spectrum. He was a man of honor, and it showed in all of his life's dealings.
He vetoed an entire labor HHS spending bill when Democrats sought to loosen the Hyde Amendment. And for those who do not know, the Hyde Amendment prohibits federal Medicaid dollars from covering abortion except in cases of rape, incest, or life endangerment. How important was that at the time?
Well, it was huge because the Hyde Amendment was under severe assault. And as we knew with the next administration of President Clinton, if they had had their preference, they would have repealed it. But he held his stance. Congress saw he wasn't going to back down. So for the duration of his presidency, the Hyde Amendment, which our institute has found saves 60,000 lives a year, was something he stood square for, and I think it's a testament to his character and his commitments.
Before we go, you knew the man. Your final thoughts?
Well, I got to meet him only a couple of times at the annual March for Life meetings in the White House. I would describe him as a listener. He heard President Reagan on the issue. He came closer and closer to his positions. Maybe not as eloquent as Reagan was, but at the end of the day, I think he was a stalwart individual and someone we can admire for his service to this country. It's inestimable.
Thank you so much. Chuck Donovan with the Charlotte Lozier Institute.
My pleasure, Lauren.